Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Columbus This Week with Trevor and Eric, bringing you all the latest, greatest news, events, stories, and otherwise cool things that impact your life. We've got a really cool feature. I think today we're going to go over the top 20 cities for the Amazon HQ2, and yeah. So I mean, you should hang around and wait and listen to that because I think it's going to be pretty funny.
Wait, why is it going to be funny?
I don't know. I think it's just because we're going to make it funny.
What's funny about like some corporation being like, all right, here are the cities that need to appease us.
Yeah. Well, that'll be funny. We'll make that funny.
Oh, God.
Okay, so I'll just go ahead and move straight into events. There's a few events going on besides me going on vacation. But
that's a major event, actually. I think that should be a national holiday.
Yeah. And with that being said, we're going to miss our listeners are going to miss next week episode because I'll physically not be here and we have no way to record.
I'll just record by myself. I'll just talk
Trevor this week. Okay. So events, the first event we have is crap, I forgot the name of it. It's the Making Midwest Winter Party and Raffle. It's at Seven Sun Brewery, which is pretty cool if you haven't been there. January 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. And the cost of admission is one entire canned food item, which will be donated to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. So it's basically free to get in because you can just buy like a can of soup, which is cool. But so I guess what they're doing is launching, like they're unveiling their plans for Making Midwest for next year. So if you're into like the creative community and like the maker community and all that kind of stuff, be a cool event to go to.
Well, how do you feel about the name?
I can't seriously though. People, so we should put that should be like a topic in 2 minutes of hate. And somebody else brought that up the other day. Who was it? I think it was somebody. It's either somebody I work with or somebody I know. But they were like, yeah, like so the JD Vance. He's like,
yes, I know who he is. Yes.
Well, so for our listeners who might not know, he's like the author of the book Hillbilly Elegy, which is pretty good. And he wasn't San Francisco or Silicon Valley, whatever, and then he moved back to Columbus for whatever reasons. But he keeps calling like Columbus and Ohio and like Pittsburgh or whatever, like these cities like Rust Belt, and other people are like getting mad about it and like stop doing that because it's just bad. It's just bad PR.
Well, you know why he's doing it, right? He's doing it to make the areas look more downtrodden because it makes his efforts look more valiant.
Yeah, but
I mean, let's not.
Well, I'm not saying he's like. I don't know him, so I don't know. Maybe that is his intention. Maybe he's, who knows why. But don't call the city for sure. But don't call these areas the Rust Belt and stop calling it the Midwest because it associates us with like either Detroit or Kansas, and either one of those are very good things to be associated with. In public opinion, I think. Although Detroit and Kansas are both nice places.
Here's the thing, though: if you're trying to get money for funding, the improvement of these areas,
they have to be very downtrodden.
Well, yeah. So we've got heroin country in like the southeast. Yeah. We've got like the Rust Belt in the northeast. If you say these things, it makes people more likely to want to change them.
Yeah,
because nobody wants to be like, oh yeah, my state's a part of heroin country.
Yeah,
that's exactly why it gets done.
Yeah, so, but if you're not him, or if you don't have some sort of investment in making this place seem bad when it's not, then stop calling it the Rust Belt. Okay, so moving on to our one other event. On the 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. for $15, there's a wine tasting going on at Camelot Cellars. Sounds pretty cool. I like wine, and it includes their dessert wines and stuff, so if you like wine, you should go, I guess.
What's the cost?
$15.
Okay.
So, which is about pretty much average. But I actually haven't been. Have you been to Camelot Cellars?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't either. So I would go, but I will unfortunately be. Well, fortunately, I'll be on vacation.
So cool going on vacation in the middle of the winter.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Okay, so moving on to construction roundup. So we've talked many times about the Millennial Tower, and I wish they'd stop. I wish it wasn't called that because it's so bad.
You know what? It would be acceptable if. So this is the dumbest part of the name. It's not named after the park that it's near. It's literally named because they want a bunch of millennials to come there. Why would they say that? Even if that was true, even if that was the actual reason, just say it's the park. Yeah. It's so... well, just lie, please.
Okay, so in construction-related news, so part of the premise for the tower was having like a big LED wraparound, like advertising light thing.
Yeah, I remember.
So fortunately, some of the more level-headed, rational people in the like the downtown commission or whatever, the Shore North Commission, whatever it falls into, I don't recall. They've been saying basically like, yeah, like that thing's too crazy because it was supposed to be like 6 floors or something, and now they've reduced it down to 3, and so it's back into the approval commission. Which is good. I'd rather it not be there at all because I don't see any value in those lights.
Sometimes for construction projects, that's a part of the the way this works, though. Is that like you throw out this like crazy idea so that they can be like, no, you got to scale that back, and you'll be like, all right, 3, which is what we wanted anyways. Maybe you get that, maybe you get 2.
Yeah.
I will say, have you been? I mean, obviously you've been on campus lately. You know the clock tower?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that thing's just like a giant advertising billboard.
I haven't seen it, so
yeah. I mean, it's basically the same thing, but like it's literally like being used for advertising.
Really?
Students paid for that so that they could be advertised too.
I know a lot of people were pretty mad about it.
I mean, I would be too if I was paying money to have advertisements shoved in my airspace.
Yeah, there should be zero like not student, not university advertisements on campus as far as I'm concerned. Because it's a public university. Like
it's a public university where half of it's privatized, though. The parking's privatized. Events have to be Coca-Cola.
Sponsored by Coca-Cola.
God, it's so dumb.
Yeah. Okay. So, so with that being said, there's some other construction things going on. So, Trevor, you know where like the Metro Library is?
Mm-hmm.
Just this 2 blocks north of the library. So for our listeners, if you haven't been to the Metro Library, you should go because that place is awesome. But there's a plan. There's a collaboration between Capital University and then a developer to redevelop like this site there for a 100-unit apartment building, and it's supposed to be like 6-story mixed use building. So that's cool. And then they're planning another new building, 8 stories on 195 East Main Street, which is subject to review for the Downtown Commission, and it would include an 8,800 square foot ground floor retail space, 105 residents, et cetera, et cetera. So, aside from like just we kind of talk about like construction. How crazy is it though that we have a construction roundup every week? I know like some people probably like you're just like listing off these things that are going on, but dude. Every week, I have some sort of new construction going on, and it's. I mean, we did talk about the Millennial Tower, but aside from that, every week there's like 2 or 3 new things getting like, up for construction.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also a city of like almost 2 million people.
Yeah. And then also, this is a little more applicable to me, but have you been to Fox in the Snow, the one in like Italian Village?
Yeah.
So they opened one in German Village. Like cool. Right down on Thurman Avenue. I haven't gone to the new one yet, but I'm looking.
I mean, they kind of need to. That place is like absurdly packed.
Yeah.
Every
day.
Every time I've been
Doesn't
in there,
matter what time you go, it is packed.
You can't find a seat, really.
Yeah. No, I really like it. I really like the marketing. Like I like their like branding and all that stuff. And I haven't ever had anything bad from there. Although, like, the pastries are probably absurdly calorie dense.
Aren't they? I mean, I feel like they're a part of the, like, granola hipster organic.
Dude, there's no way those aren't. I mean, I'm not saying... I mean, they're not, like bad for you any more than, like, other pastries would be.
Well, what I'm saying is I feel like...
There's no way those aren't, like, 1,000 calorie per
bite.
I'm
I'm not talking about, like, the calories. What I'm saying is that, like... I feel like the business is a part of the, like, GMOs bad, gotta have organic everything crowd.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, but yeah.
That would be my objection to them.
Yeah, I personally don't. Well, I'm not a big fan of organic, like, whatever. But yeah, so on the other hand, they're like, I've had, like, coffee and other drinks from there, and they're good. Like, they're good, they're fine, but they're not, like, anything to.
Right, they're
It's not like, oh, this is the best, like, latte I've ever had. But, I mean, they're good. I'm not, they're easily as good as anything else in town, but
you know who makes great lattes and stuff?
Starbucks.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they do. That's like my go-to drink is a vanilla latte from Starbucks with non-fat milk.
I was gonna say like Mozart's.
No, I haven't been there yet, so I need to go. All right, so that's all I have for the construction roundup.
All right then, Eric. Let's move on to the 2-minute state. So first up, we have a quick follow-up on the Lindsay Shepard story. That being the TA who was sort of censured by her department.
The one in Canada?
Yep.
Okay.
So it turns out that So during we played the clips, and one of the little sound bites is like she asks like who the people are complaining, and then they
to the professor, like when she was being told about,
and then they like hide behind like confidentiality. They're like, oh, we're not allowed to tell you. She's like, can you even tell me how many? And they're like, no, sorry, we can't provide you with that information.
Students?
Yes, complained. And so the actual answer, it has come out in this like little research committee, because obviously this was a huge event for the college.
Yeah.
The number of people who complained, number of students who complained, was 0.
That's funny.
So nobody had a problem with it. So the PhD who sat over her, I guess, just took it upon themselves to make it a problem.
Wow.
All right. So that's
no surprise there.
Next up, this is coming from Eric. He says, "Clean off your stupid car."
Yes. Yeah. So it's really irritating when you're on the highway. And it's also really dangerous when people just absolutely do not clean off their car whatsoever, or their semis. Semi trucks are the worst, because those are, I mean, both are dangerous, but semi trucks, you know, if it's just sitting there in a lot overnight and it just snows and you get like 4 inches of snow up there, like those can turn into giant like snow sheets and then crash off. Like I've seen videos where people are just driving and then like a giant chunk of snow and ice like flips off the car and it just like another car and it smashes to another car. It's like windshield and stuff. So, like it's not a big deal. Like I don't know why people are so. I don't know, like people are like, oh, like I got to go clean off my car. Like, why don't you just shut up and do it?
Well, for semis, is it even possible? Or I mean, how do
sure
you get
it's
up
possible.
there? Do they? I mean,
they have like ladders and stuff.
Do they carry ladders?
They should.
Huh?
Like, what if something? I mean, there's a way to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they don't though.
Yeah.
All right. Next up in the 2 minutes hate, we just have a couple of quotes from one Donald J.
our dear
Trump.
leader.
All right. So, beautiful weather all around our great country. A perfect day for all women to march. Get out there now to celebrate the historic milestones and unprecedented economic success and wealth creation that has taken place over the last 12 months. Lowest female unemployment in 18 years. Donald J. Trump.
Was that yesterday or today?
That was yesterday.
Okay. This other one was yesterday too. I think.
Also from yesterday. This is our 1 year anniversary of my presidency, and the Democrats wanted to give me a nice present. Hashtag Democrat shutdown.
So I obviously like disagree with this, with his the first one is just trolling, and then the second one's like also trolling, but I disagree with it. But I do think those are like you can appreciate the humor. Like I don't know, like some people get like really upset about that. It's like
I know, like
it's obviously that he's like trolling, like
so as I'm reading them,
which our president shouldn't be doing. But
as I'm reading them, I'm just imagining like other people's blood pressure just rising.
Yeah.
All right, but that's it for the 2 minutes hate.
All right, so move on to some Columbus news. Trevor, we had a funny, well, I don't know if it's funny. Well, it's not funny because it's really annoying, but there's a story. So one of the places, you know, we both browse is the Columbus subreddit on reddit.com, obviously. And www.reddit. Okay. So there's a story, somebody, like another person, like another Redditor, I guess, posted on the Columbus subreddit, and it was just got spit on in the short north. So, Trevor, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, some guy got spit on.
Was it a guy or a girl?
Girl.
I think it was a girl.
I don't know.
I thought it was a girl, but it could be.
I'm not going to assume anyone's gender. So some person was spit on.
Or was it even a person? Like, what if they identify as like a fox?
So anyway,
some creature,
some person was spit on, and and essentially is like, yo, watch out because this person might be roaming around spitting on other people. Yeah. And I mean, essentially, everybody knows that, like, in the short north, there's just a ton of homeless people, and a lot of them are very aggressive.
Yeah, and it's really annoying.
Especially if you're, like, a young woman.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, I feel like my girlfriend gets, like, the brunt of like, if we're both together, they'll, like, focus on her.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason that, like, the homeless people are so aggressive is because, like, it works particularly, and you pointed out before the show too that like this is also common on campus.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there are certain people who are seen as like weak and vulnerable, and like the homeless will aggressively ask them for money to scare them into doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I think that's why the short north is that way, because it's not exactly like, you know, you don't have like tough old people roaming the.
Yeah.
It's
mostly just like young professional type people who
they
have a lot to lose by getting in a bad engagement with a homeless person,
or even collegiates.
Yeah, who also, again, you know, they frankly just have a lot to lose. Like they're like, I have everything to lose if you get in a fight with a homeless person. They have nothing to lose, but yeah. So the homeless, that's honestly like that's the worst part of like the city, like living in the city. And I will say like the homeless problem in Columbus, and other people pointed this out too, but especially in the short north is like particularly bad.
Yeah, I mean
like it's like San Francisco bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's basically we have like West Coast homelessness in certain areas of Columbus.
Yeah. Like I know, like downtown's kind of bad, but not. It depends on if you're close to the bus stop or not, more or less. And I love buses. Not it's just that's just happens to be where the problem is. So if you're close to the bus stop downtown, or if you're around the like where they have the jail, like the county jail that's downtown or whatever, that's another bad spot too. But that like I don't really feel like, at least so like sometimes like we we walk somewhere or whatever. But like last night we walked by like 3 homeless people, and like we saw this one guy. I was like, oh, it's a homeless guy. And then and notice how they're all guys though. But like we were walking, and then he stopped.
Follow you around one day?
Yeah. Well, he tried to like get into like my condo building. We actually had we had like when it was really cold, we had a string of like homeless people trying to like get inside, and like a whole bunch, like our condo board was like, hey, make sure you call the cops so like they get these people out of here, because they get in and steal stuff. We had somebody jumped over the fence and like broke into some people's cars too. Actually, that happened.
Wow,
that's the only time I've heard of that.
But I was gonna say I guess that's some athleticism, but I guess you can just scale the fence. I mean, it's tall, but like you can.
I mean, it's not like it's barbed wire or something. But hopefully that's the only time that happens. But yeah, like so I don't feel like as unsafe downtown, because like if I'm walking home, like if you walk by like, for example, like the county jail, like there's cops everywhere, so the homeless people are pretty tame. But up in the short, like the other day we were walking home, and like there's a homeless person who like happened to end up walking in front of us, and like we were just walking behind him. He like freaked out and like went behind us, and he just started like mumbling and stuff. But I didn't care, because like right in front of me is like 3 cop cruisers, and like I mean, most homeless people aren't so crazy that they're going to do something right in front of the cops, like they know better. But in the short north, like there aren't cops walking the street as there should be. I think cops should just walk around up there to stave off some of the aggression. But
well, I mean, there used to be a big push by actually Mayor Ginther to try and I guess alleviate the problem of the homeless people, being in the short north in particular, just because it's a business area.
Yeah.
But there was massive pushback against that, because essentially what was happening is the police were roaming around, picking up the homeless and dropping them off in like Hilltop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I think they should do is just have the cops on foot patrols, and like if they see like a group of homeless people hanging out or whatever, like just hang out with them. And then like the cops, like, because the thing is what ends up happening is it's not an aggression thing. Like the cops are just hanging out next to them, and so if they start aggressively panhandling, well, the cops are right there, and so the cops are going to deter that behavior, and so the homeless people are going to like walk away, right? Well, the cops can just like walk away with them, and eventually like they realize they're not going to be able to like panhandle, so what else are they going to do? They'll just walk away, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
if nothing else, if nothing else, it'd be like the illusion of safety with the cops walking around. So I think people would feel better.
Yeah, I don't know if that's my solution. I mean,
well, I don't know if it's. I mean, my solution would be just like round them all up and send them, just like get out of here. But
well, I mean, they'll come back.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just keep taking them away, I guess.
I mean,
or you could buy them tickets, send them to California. I'd be okay with that.
Didn't that happen in like New York City?
No, I was telling you about that. It's like it's an old island tale. So the tale is, so when I lived in Hawaii, the rumor on the island was the reason that there were so many homeless people was because in like the 70s and 80s or something, New York had a huge homeless problem. So the mayor at the time was like, all right, homeless people, we'll buy you a one-way ticket to Hawaii. And then once they're in Hawaii, like they can't get off the island unless Hawaii buys them tickets somewhere else. So the mayor was like, all right. And then they rounded up a whole bunch of homeless people, and they put them on planes and send them to Hawaii.
Man,
so that's. I mean, I don't think that's true at all, but that's like the island tale.
Man, imagine if a whole bunch of cities just decided to like start shipping their homeless to other cities.
Yeah,
I think eventually they'd all end up in California or Hawaii because it's more comfortable there.
Yeah, Hawaii is hard too though, because like there's a huge ocean there, so you have to fly. At least like California, you can physically get there on a bus or something.
Like, I don't think anybody wants to be homeless in Columbus or New York City or anywhere where it's cold.
Well, I don't think anybody really wants to be homeless.
Well,
some
no,
people do,
I'm not. So when in constructing that sentence, the focus isn't on like homeless.
No, I know.
I'm saying if you are homeless, you in particular don't want to be homeless in like a cold city.
Yeah. Why don't they send them to Florida or something? It's nice down there. I guess hurricanes, but.
Well, I mean, I think that's the reason the homeless population is so high in California.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's high in Seattle too.
Well, that and the fact that to be homed in California, in some places you have to have $3,000 a month.
Yeah, at a minimum too. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, there's the other thing I wanted to say was if you do get spit on in the short north, you can call the cops because it's like battery. I think at the minute it's like assault and battery or so, there's something like that. So because
it's not assault. So here's the funny thing about assault and battery. Assault is like threatening physical violence on somebody. So if I just come up behind you and just like bop you in the head without you like even knowing it's coming, that's just battery. Okay. Because I've just like hit you.
Yeah.
And then like if I'm threatening to hit you, that's just assault.
But if you do both, then it's assault and battery.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if somebody just like blindside spits on you, that would just be battery.
Yeah. But that still, ends up putting you in a big problem. So if you get spit on or if a homeless person like touches you, immediately call the cops. Like take a picture of that person, like right there and then, walk away, and then call the cops, and then give the cops a picture, and then explain that like that person just somehow physically interacted with you, because that's like a line that can't be crossed. So, okay. Now that we're done with homeless people, let's move on to well,
you've solved the homeless problem?
No, it's kind of a related story, but it's more positive. So in the Hilltop, there's a new coffee shop called Third Way Cafe, and kind of like Hot Chicken Takeover. This is a similar kind of story. One of the things that they're working to do is partner with people who are being rehabilitated in prison. And actually, there is I believe this. I couldn't believe this when I read it, but I think it's cool. But one of the things they're doing is actually training prisoners in prison to become baristas. So, what are your thoughts on that? And then hopefully they're able to come out and they can at least work here, like Third Way Cafe or in other places.
So like anywhere else in Columbus, I'm interested in trying it as a coffee shop, right? I like new coffee shops.
Yeah.
Here's so I'll put it this way. I will give this Second Chance coffee shop a second chance to like redeem felons in not making shitty products though.
Yeah.
Because Hot Chicken Takeover is terrible.
Well, they're not making. I mean, they're just doing whatever.
It's not their fault. But what I'm saying is like. I mean, it was kind of a joke, but what I'm saying is that Hot Chicken Takeover is terrible.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to say.
Yeah, that's the actual point.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the fact that Hot Chicken Takeover is literally just unseasoned chicken with like cayenne on top.
Yeah.
But anyways,
so
I think it's a good idea. I'm like I said when we talked about Hot Chicken Takeover, I'm generally a fan of these sort of second chance kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like having a conviction should ruin your life. Like you served your time.
I do think the funny thing is that like while they're in prison, they're like learning to make coffee and stuff.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Okay, and then a brief mention: ECOT finally closed. So we talked about that a couple of times, but they're actually closed now. So
yeah, I mean it doesn't make that much difference. I'm sure everybody was like switching to K through 12 or other similar programs as this whole lawsuit was unfolding. So it's not like crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean it wasn't like, oh wow, that just happened. Yeah, so. And so there's another interesting story that came out. I don't know if I'd call it. Well, I don't know. It's not really a story so much as just like a fact. But apparently in Columbus, 1 out of every 3 homes fetched more than the list price, and the average, the median like asking price, like the median above asking price paid was like $5,100, and they said it was like between so in 2016, it was like 10% of homes were over the asking price, and then in 2017, it's like 32.9%. And that is, if I recall correctly, the highest or one of like the top five highest. No, hold on. So that puts us behind Seattle, which is 52.4%, San Antonio at 42%, Sacramento at 41%, Portland at 41%, and Boston at 40%. So we're at 32%, which probably puts us in like the top 10 or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everybody knows the housing. I mean, the housing market is great as a seller, but it's, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before. The housing market's hot and it's hard to buy a house and it's easy to sell a house.
But now we actually have like facts. So
Well,
the report comes from Zillow, by the way. So
well, we already knew that we were 15% YOY on the
oh yeah,
value.
yeah. So I wanted to mention that I had that in the show notes that year over year growth for last year was above 15%, which was the highest for any large metro region. In the
Yeah, we
country.
talked about that last week.
Did we?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, this is further collaborates that then.
All right. So next up, you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that apparently WoW is offering 1 gigabit internet service now.
Yeah, which AT&T has offered for a while.
Yeah, which I did not know. But
actually,
but then AT&T, you have to like rent their modem. Well, I think you have to do with this one gig with WoW too. But you have to like rent their modem and stuff and pay for it. And like I don't want to pay for that. It's annoying.
Yeah, maybe. Like, are you required? Can you not have your own modem?
No, I think you have to like rent their modem. That's one of the reasons I have Spectrum right now is because I wanted to get AT&T. Like previously, I was going to get AT&T. At least like where I last lived.
Are they not the same?
What do you mean?
Spectrum is like the rebranding of some company. Which one?
No, they bought Time Warner.
Oh, it's Time Warner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They like bought Time Warner. It's not like a rebranding.
Gotcha.
I mean, they rebranded Time Warner to Spectrum because they bought them. But yeah, even I think Spectrum doesn't make you, or Time Warner, whatever. But AT&T, when I was looking to get just like normal internet service, they were like, yeah, you have to pay like $5 a month for a modem, and it's like I have a modem and I don't want to pay for yours because I have my own and it's cheaper.
Yeah, I just got a promotional deal where they said they'd give everything to me, so I don't care that much, but I do have a modem.
Yeah.
So I was curious about that.
Okay.
They also said they're running fiber for my house, which is weird because it's only like 50 meg down a month.
Huh.
I mean, this is completely an aside.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even get WoW where I live. It's like outside of it's like just outside of like whatever their
You're too
like
downtown for them.
Yeah. Well, no, they have it downtown.
Why don't you try living in a suburb, Eric? Maybe you'd get WoW then.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I could jump off a cliff too. Okay.
Do they even have cliffs in suburbs?
Probably.
Do they have cliffs like right? It's probably a part of the strip malls, like the cliff.
Yeah. So there's like a strip mall and there's a parking lot, and then after you go to the strip mall in your car, you just drive your car off a cliff.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Last up in community news, Eric, we actually have a new commuter service popping up here in Columbus.
Ooh, I like that.
So Ford owns this like subsidiary of theirs called Chariot, and it's essentially like this mini bus commuter service that basically will take people from. I mean, it functions like a bus, but for a private
like a
locale.
daily shuttle.
Yeah.
From what I read on the story.
Yeah. So I guess
I didn't know they were owned by Ford. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I guess for J.P. Morgan here in Columbus, they're going to ship people from like the downtown areas all the way up to Polaris.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, the parking and traffic. Like I have some friends that work at the like the mothership area thing at Polaris.
Yep.
And they said like if you get there like after 9 or something like that, like you have to park like a mile away and like take in a shuttle or something, or you have to try parking in the mall.
Well then, so I guess it's filling a similar role to like the new shuttles they have for Wexner then, because you also can't park there now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. Again, this doesn't surprise me. Like, there's not enough space for cars. Like, hello.
Maybe we should just build more parking, Eric.
Oh no, that's the worst. So think about it though. Like after, like on a weekend, like
so
think about all that unused space. It's so inefficient.
So you're in favor of this then?
Yes, definitely.
But I thought you hated buses. I thought you absolutely...
No. I do not hate buses. How did you get that impression?
Because you said you hated buses. You don't like riding them.
Well, no. I don't mind riding a bus. I don't like the people on the bus.
The bus is fine. Just give it to me empty. I don't want any of those other human beings on it.
The problem, I mean, look, frankly, I mean, the bus in Columbus, like I've been on the C bus with people fondling themselves. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Yeah, that happened one time. I didn't even want to tell people because I was so embarrassed. So like,
why don't you talk about it live on air while you have a captive audience?
Yeah. So one time I took the C bus up to the Short North.
As one might expect.
Yeah. And like I was just sitting there like listening to music and just being normal, and then all of a sudden like all these people in the back were freaking out. There was just some guy in the back. Like some girl was like, "Oh my God, he's like showing himself like stop the bus or whatever," and the guy like got off the bus and like ran or something. But he was like fondling himself on the bus, and like the problem is. The bus, like that's the kind of people you get on the bus. That's my only problem with the bus. Otherwise, I love the bus.
I almost don't want to believe it because that sounds exactly like
I swear to God, it happened.
It sounds exactly like a skit that Dave Chappelle had, or like one of his stand-up bits where he's talking about like being next to this homeless guy who just starts jerking off and starts aiming at people.
No, this guy didn't do that, but yeah, it was real bad. So,
well, at least you have a common experience then, apparently.
yeah, so I don't want that experience.
This isn't unprecedented.
So you know what's sad though is like I was actually kind of trying not to laugh because I'm like it was in the very very like the last seat, and then there's like some people. So on the C bus, it's like you have a back row, and then like two like little smaller rows for seats, and I was like all the way down like next to the bus driver, as close as you can get to the bus driver. Because so I always try to sit next to the bus drivers because the bus drivers are very no nonsense, and like they know how to deal with like people being crazy on the bus. So I always just sit next to them because they're like they don't want to deal with anything that's out of the ordinary. The bus driver has absolutely no interest in it, and they have like a big attitude about it, like if you're like disrupting the bus. So I always just sit next to them. So I was just sitting there like I was honestly just like trying not to laugh because everybody else was like really aghast, and I guess I'm a bad person or something. But like it was a bad thing, but it was just so outrageous that I just thought it was funny because the guy was like, "No, I'm not. Like, no, I didn't do it," and then like he clearly did, and like everybody saw it, and then he's just pretending that he didn't. And then he was laughing about it too, and
oh my god!
So I have a problem with that kind of stuff on the bus.
I see. Okay.
Well, I also don't think buses are a good solution. Like when people like I want like streetcars and stuff, or like municipal subways or whatever, like that kind of stuff. So
how is a streetcar fundamentally different than a bus?
It's just different. It's just cooler. So okay. Anyway,
you're a hipster, but that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
So, anyways, Chariot is taking people to and from the big Chase building.
Okay,
that's cool.
Yeah. And apparently they're also partnering with Smart Columbus program too for this.
Oh well, so then that
makes one thing that they've done so far.
Yeah, I was gonna say that instantly is better than any other thing that Smart Cities has put out this year, unfortunately. Or sorry, as of last year.
Yeah. So in the article they say that they're partnering with JP Morgan, and the service in the area will be specifically a shuttle for the company's 400 corporate center employees. And you know what I hope? I hope that I don't think this is definitely not going to happen, so I'm being flippant here, but I sure hope that people don't start throwing rocks or like shooting sandbag pellets through the bus as it drives down the highway. Do you hear about that for the Apple bus?
No.
So Apple, so like other tech companies like Google and all that.
Yeah, they have their little
so like
shuttles.
Yeah, so they have like a big bus that'll drive you down from San Francisco, and apparently the Apple bus, like there were people on the highway like setting up who were shooting sandbag or rubber pellets out of guns into the bus. So they were like smashing the windows and stuff.
Why do you think they were doing that?
I don't know.
Well, my guess would be because
they were probably like Google people.
No, I don't think it's Google people. I think it's SF people who really hate the tech community.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
because I've read articles about people like not wanting to wear like people in SF now actively try to avoid looking like they're part of the tech community because they don't want to be like lynched by the rest of SF.
Yeah, if you go into the wrong neighborhood down there, I mean this is true anywhere, but I mean if you go in the wrong neighborhood and look like a tech person, male or female, you're gonna get harassed by homeless people or poor people.
It's not.
Whatever.
I mean, it's not just the homeless. Like,
or I said like or poor people or other people who are like.
So are we talking San Francisco poor? As in like less than $1 million net worth?
No, dude. They have like subsidized housing and stuff.
Well, what I'm saying though is that like people feel socially ostracized by non-tech members of the community because they're hated because they've driven up the cost of living so much.
Yeah.
Like I think that's that's possibly the people who are destroying Apple buses.
Yeah. But they have absolutely no leg to stand on doing that though too. So.
Well, I mean they're just mad because like the area they potentially grew up in or whatever is now like unaffordable for them to live in. They've been priced out. Yeah, I mean that sucks. Like I don't know. I mean it's a rough situation for everybody. Yeah. I think the solution is to stop putting tech companies over there. You know what the solution is? Fewer people. Kill them all? No, there's stop trying to. No, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you have these certain cities, like let's say New York, for example, or San Francisco, or Seattle, or whatever. They're bringing in more people than they can handle, and the only way to solve that problem is to have fewer people. Well, I mean, other people can move to other cities and whatnot, but in general, if you continue to have a population increase, who gets to stay? Whoever can afford it. That's it. I mean, there's no fair way around that. So the solution is fuck the poorest then.
well, I'm not saying screw them. Like I'm in favor of things like having like a basic income and having like socialized healthcare. But the idea, like people, I don't know, dude. People forget that like living in a big city is a luxury. It's not like a right. That's for sure. Like you're not entitled to keep living in the same house that your parents lived in. I mean, there's no entitled, like you're not entitled to that at all.
I mean, I understand the desire.
I mean, I feel bad, but yeah, I mean, there's desire and there's like, oh, I would like to keep living where I've always lived, but I mean, the world changes.
I mean, almost everyone else in the world gets to do that, though. That is,
I don't know, maybe, but
if you wanted to live in Marysville now, do you think you'd be able to?
Well, yeah, because nobody wants to live there.
Well, yeah, but that's true for the vast majority of the world.
That again, it's like living in these great cities is a luxury. It's the same thing like Hong Kong and stuff. It's super expensive. There, Singapore, like you can't afford to live in Singapore.
Me personally,
yeah, or London, or a lot of like nicer areas in Paris for sure, which are slowly dwindling. Munich is expensive. I mean, try living in Scandinavia. All those cities are incredibly expensive. I mean, the problem is like you have nice places. People want to live in nice places, and then the people with the most money are going to buy the property in the nice places and keep it nice. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel bad, but I also don't. Like, I'm sympathetic, but it's like, well, if you can't afford to live there, then you should just move. And then the reality is like, if you're doing like a 2-hour commute to get into the city to work at a coffee shop, like I think you're an idiot, and that's your fault. Because you can move to Columbus, and you could do that same thing and like have a 20-minute drive and then probably make more money because like you would have a lot cheaper rent. And
I wonder what the population of working homeless is there. I bet it's pretty high.
Yeah, and I think they should move. I mean, dude, like it makes sense. Like why would you stay there? I mean, it's your like people aren't perfectly rational, but it's completely irrational if you're like doing that to like having that kind of lifestyle when you could have the same job. It would have better economic opportunities if you just move somewhere else and then have a better life. And if you choose not to do that, I mean, I get like if you can't save up for it, but you could get on a Greyhound. They're not that. I mean, you can get on a bus and like that sucks really bad, but there are things you can do. I'm just saying that.
I agree with you.
And then when that happens, there won't be people to staff these coffee shops and restaurants, so they're going to have to pay people more money. I mean, right now there's more workers who are willing to like make those like to live that lifestyle than there are more workers, so they can't they don't have any incentive to raise the prices to afford to like in order to pay workers more or whatever to attract workers and stuff.
So I agree that as an individual you just shouldn't be in that position, right? You should just leave.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is difficult to leave, and I'm not trying to minimize that, but if you look at it like absolutely, yeah, you can just leave. So
I mean, I guess my bigger problem is that like I don't know that the answer of most money wins is necessarily the right one.
Yeah, so I mean, but I think the way to mitigate that is if you have fewer people, then it kind of negates itself. Like there would always be like the most nice area of town, but if you have a lot fewer people, then you can afford to like live next to that nice area of town because there just simply is room. You can't live close to like down to like Manhattan or something because there's too many people.
So I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me is that it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for places like SF to exist in the first place, in that like you have all these massive tech companies that are paying people $250,000 salaries when they could be literally anywhere else, and their talent could be literally anywhere else.
Yeah. Like it's an ego thing is what it is.
I mean, the absurdity of these like I don't know what you would call them, like talent bubbles maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't make financial sense, except so the value of living in a place like SF is not high enough to justify it, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not rational. I think it's one ego, because other people there. I mean, there are some benefits to having like your talent, like a talented group of workers, like concentrated in one area, because you have better exchange of ideas and you can kind of mix people around and stuff. But
I mean, we have the internet.
But the thing is, like, you could move to Kansas and it'd be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So not so big on Kansas. It's just first or Nebraska or something, I guess. But
all right. Well, you want to?
Okay. Yeah, beat that to death.
Yeah. Let's move on to our debate and discussion section.
Okay. Okay, so the first thing I had that I think is kind of fun to worth discussing is so in Sweden, for the second week in a row. They're awesome. But in Sweden, so if you have a parent, like two parents or whatever, or I guess a single mom, I would assume as well. In Sweden, parents get 480 days of parental leave that they can split however they want between spouses, and you're typically paid like 80% of your salary while you're on this leave. And then previously, it was mostly taken by like just the mothers, but now like fathers are taking it more, which is pretty cool. I guess it went up like, last year it was like 28% of like fathers also took parental leave, whereas before it was like it was like 2% or something like that, or like 10% or something. So I would like to see something like that in Ohio, more or less.
So honestly, I'd say this is the best thing I have ever seen as far as actually combating the wage gap goes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, one of the biggest causes of the wage gap is the fact that
at least it's a contributing factor. I don't know if we could say it's the biggest.
I would say it's the biggest. So I guess I'm grouping two issues here. So maybe not the biggest if you split them, but pregnancy plus time lost for afternatal.
Postnatal care.
Yeah, those two end up depressing a woman's entire career, because first of all, it's harder to get hired if you're at the age where it's likely that you're going to be lost for like 6 months due to trying to have a kid and raise a kid.
Okay.
At least as a baby. Like that's just a known thing. Executives basically can't find work in the like around the 30 to 32 age, just because it's so common, and companies essentially don't want to, I mean, in the US don't want to pay for somebody who's not doing work.
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality of it. And so I think if you look at like long-term wages, it's the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Because it impacts the people who make the most money, which is like executives and corporate officers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I would classify it in terms of scale. I definitely think it's a contributing factor. And then the part of the thing is if you look at just these statistics, where previously, I guess in like the 90s or something like that, in Sweden it was like 10% of men would take leave. So like in the United States, like let's say that you're a woman, you get pregnant, and the father keeps working, and maybe gets a bonus or a raise, or they just keep frankly they just keep working, and the woman is not working. So in Sweden, you get like 80% of your salary, but in this case, like let's say the woman's not working, she's missing out on a year of salary.
Yeah.
So there's a year of salary increases, a year of experience gained, etc., or however long. Maybe it's only 6 months,
and that's sort of my point is that
I was just expanding on that.
You're sort of delineating your salary curve.
Yeah,
right?
So it's hard to catch up. So for me, I think this is the kind of thing that I think we need in the United States, hopefully in Ohio or something like that.
I also, this is a quick aside, but I want to point out, I really like the idea of paying like 80% of your salary.
Yeah, versus 100. Yeah.
Yeah, because so now there's a I guess encouragement to go back to work when you're actually able, right?
Right.
Because if you make it 100%, people are just going to take every day.
Yeah.
So you will go back to, I mean, you're more likely to go back to work whenever you're able, but it's still a significant amount of money, and generally
the thing is, like, you have to have enough money to keep living.
Yeah.
So, and then I also like the idea where you can split the time as you see fit.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a common sense approach, because I've met women who had just had a kid, and they can't wait to get back to work, but they're stuck at home. And then I've seen the reverse situation too, where so I think it should be up to the individual couple. And then on top of that, the first 2 years of a child's life are by far the most important, right? So if you're if you're a parent, like, how are you going to ensure the success of your children? Well, actually being a parent there for the first couple of years. And then when you have a city like Columbus, which has what I think it's Linden, right, that has the nation's highest infant mortality rate. So I mean, these are the kind of programs that help reduce those indicators, right?
Yeah. I will say though, I'm not a fan of how these policies directly affect companies. So in the U.S., like a lot of small businesses, if they're just forced to pay for an employee that isn't working, that's the kind of thing that'll put them out of business.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm sure that like there's some sort of tax scheme such that. So I think now maybe we should do a little bit more research on this, but I'm pretty sure that the 80%. I don't know. I feel like I've read that it's paid for by taxes and not because they're like bringing up the small business. There's no way small businesses could pay for that. So there has to be some sort of, and there are small businesses in Sweden. So
yeah, I mean, and that would be my main concern because that's the way it's set up in the U.S. and I have big problems with that. So I mean, the alternate solutions are either the government pays for it and taxes go up, which is fine. I mean, I think that's a better solution, right? You sort of what do you call it? You basically collectivize the cost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to,
or you offer insurance, which also collectivizes the cost.
Yeah, although I will say this goes directly in the face of like my goal of having less people because it's kind of like makes it easier to have kids. So,
I mean,
there's that.
I mean, didn't you also say you'd rather have kids like in Western countries than countries that are like really poor? And also, I mean, places like China, India, that already have populations over 1 billion.
Yeah, Okay,
because I don't think Sweden is really the big population.
Well, yeah, but they don't want to ruin things too. Like if you end up having too many, like any sort of it's not about Swedish kids or not or whatever. It's just like if you end up getting too many people, like you end up ruining the country. So,
like how many people would that take though? I don't know
what the number is.
I don't think they're approaching that.
Well, they could be. We don't know.
Yeah.
Well. Okay. So the next story I had was in the EU. So. Okay, so I guess it's a little bit of a backstory. So recently, China decided to ban imports of like foreign recyclable material, and I think they're also working, which makes sense for them. If I was China, I would definitely do this. And also, they're going to try to stop importing just trash in general. But the EU is looking to they want to have 55% of all plastic to be recycled by 2030, and for member states to reduce the use of bags, like plastic bags per person, from 90 a year to 40 per year or something like that by 2026. So I wish, I hate plastic. I mean, the reason I don't have, it's not like
you
an
hate
oil
it,
thing. I hate that we use it for everything, especially plastic bags. Like when we go to like Kroger or something, like we always get the paper bags, or we just bring our own bags. That doesn't make any sense to have. Like to keep using plastic bags, other than it's just kind of cheap.
It's like a weird holdover from the 50s that never kind of went away.
Yeah. So the thing is, the thing is, like, people think like, well, plastic bags are cheaper, but they're not in the long run. And I think the same thing's true with a lot of plastic material. It's cheap now, but the impact to the environment, I think, in the long run, is not going to be worth it.
How do you feel about Aldi?
I don't know. I've never been, so.
Well, they encourage you to. Well, first of all, you have to buy your own bags, but they also encourage you to
Aren't they like German or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So of course that makes sense. Like they're trying to do the right thing. So.
I like how that's just the assumption. If they're German, they try to do the right thing. How'd that work out for Volkswagen?
Well, I mean that's an outlier though, right?
Is it?
I think so.
They did the right thing for their company's profits until it didn't work.
True. But yeah, so I don't know. I just thought that was a good story. I'd like to see. It's like there are some cities in the U.S. that are just banning plastic bags. I think it'd be great if Columbus did that, and in Ohio in general.
Well, how do you ban them? Like what happens?
You just say like they're banned from the grocery stores.
Well,
because otherwise you would never.
If I have them, are they gonna raid my house?
No, it won't be silly. But I think banning them from grocery stores would be great.
All right. So next up, we have an article from Brad Frost, software developer.
Okay.
Titled, Google, you creepy son of a bitch.
Okay. All
right. So essentially, I know you don't know this because you've never touched a non-Apple product in your life.
No, I hadn't. My first smartphone was an Android phone.
Wow.
And then after that, I realized how great an iPhone was.
Back in 2003,
2011.
So, anyways, essentially,
then I bought an iPhone 4.
Essentially, Google.
That was great.
If you don't turn location services off completely, Google Play services is now pinging you every time you go to a location. Is like, hey, would you like to take photos for us? Hey, would you like to review this place for us? Hey, what's going on? Like it's just like it's actively notifying you that it's tracking you and being like, hey, would you like give us information about this place?
Oh, that's so bad.
It's really pretty terrible. So the article will be linked in the show notes. I recommend you read it. But essentially, it's basically just sort of making the case that Google is really, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so it wouldn't even be as creepy because Google's obviously doing this. They're collecting as much data as you will let them. Like any possible data you give them, they're saving. Like just assume that.
So there's I got a couple. So there's from the article. There's a couple funny like tweets. I guess maybe I should get Twitter so I could read funny stuff and whatever. But one of them was so I'll read these two from the article. But one of them was I will say that the last straw was when I walked by a restaurant and a notification popped up and said, "Do they serve spicy food there? Help us out." And I was like, "Oh hell no, Google." And then the other one was I disabled Google Maps tracking, and then Google search started notifying me about places I was near. I don't want to play a cat and mouse game with my privacy. So that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you have to remember is that you're not Google's customer. You never are.
Right, you're their product.
Somebody on Hacker News was saying that they are Google. I mean, they were basically saying they are Google's customer, not their not their product because they bought like a Pixel phone. Yeah. And the answer is no, you're not. Like,
right, that's delusional.
Google's business model is set up such that you are never the customer.
Yeah.
Like just because you buy a very expensive thing from them, you're not operating in like what Google considers like their customer base.
Right.
I mean, their main job is to sell data to, or I guess to sell the outputs of their data to advertisers.
Yeah.
Like no matter what. You can buy a Chromebook from them, you can buy a Pixel from them, but you're still just a source of data.
Yeah. So there was one thing I heard a discussion that really annoyed me. Somebody was like, "Oh, like I have like the iCloud drive is so expensive. It's like $299 a month for 200 gigabytes." And I'm like, "No, it's not expensive. Like you're just actually paying for the product." And like you like that's a clear transaction. They're like, well, Google, I get like unlimited photo storage, and it's like, yeah, you do realize that like you're paying them by giving them your data. Like that's the change. For some reason, people keep thinking it's free, and like they have this mentality that if something's free, then it's like free, and it's like no, like there's no free lunch. Like they're mining your data and they're keeping track of your location and stuff. And so if you're fine paying that price, that's fine. But I wish people would acknowledge that instead of being like, oh, well, you're paying like $1 or $2.99 a month for like a 200 gigabyte like cloud drive, and it's like, yeah, and then nobody's mining my photos. Like that's how the world works.
That is the cost of freedom.
Yeah.
In this case,
but even so, it's like I don't know. I think people, unfortunately, I think, and maybe Apple's probably really bad about this, but because it might be kind of their fault with the App Store and the introduction of the iPhone, but. People have this expectation that things are going to be free all the time. Like free, like all apps are free, all software is free. My cloud storage drive is free, and all this stuff. And then they don't realize that those things aren't free whatsoever. So if I want an app, like I look for something that's good that I can pay for, and then they don't have ads in it for sure. And then preferably something that's not mining my user habits. But
how do you feel about free software?
I mean, generally it's good.
I mean. When I say free software, I mean like free.
Open source?
No, I mean, like,
free. Yeah, free is in quotation marks. Free. I'm not a big fan.
No.
Generally,
I mean like Stallman free software.
Oh, I mean it's cool, I guess. So this is a tangent, a little bit of an aside, and it will not affect either of us. But so how they have like Android Auto and then Apple CarPlay.
Sure.
Maybe we should put this in the 2 minutes I hate, but so BMW has like a basically like the CarPlay. Or iDrive or something like that, and they're charging people $80 a year for like the software system like in the car.
That's dumb.
Yeah, it drives me like crazy because I like BMW cars. Like I think they look great and all this stuff. But like that I hate I'm so scared of the idea of like a subscription service for any sort of because. I mean, if BMW does it, there's absolutely no reason that lower cost car manufacturers won't do the same thing. They're just gonna keep trying to like nickel and dime you. And
they won't do it because I don't think most people will deal with that.
Well, if everybody does it, then
I feel like BMW drivers are a special breed of bad people.
I had a BMW once.
I like you less after hearing that.
Why? It was a nice. I had what is the E46 or whatever model. But I had like I bought it in 2008, and it was like a 2002 325i. It was the best car I've ever driven.
I feel like
so nice.
I feel like almost everybody who ever cuts me off and drives stupidly aggressively drives a BMW.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, if you're doing an illegal thing, generally
you're probably in a BMW.
Yeah, no, seriously, I've noticed this. Like, I just naturally assume that people in BMWs are willing to like put their own lives at like significant risk to save 4 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it's worth it. Okay, let's move on. Sorry about the
so
tangent.
Next up, we have the campaign run video from Chelsea Manning.
Yeah.
So
what's the backstory here?
So for those of you who don't know, Chelsea Manning, formerly known as Bradley Manning.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, leaked a bunch of information and it leaked a bunch of information to WikiLeaks, I guess. Some of it about like covert military operations, a lot of it just about the general ongoings of
the Iraq War and Afghanistan or whatever.
And so was essentially like put in solitary confinement for like a couple of years at least, while the trial was ongoing, and subjected to a whole bunch of terrible shit. But essentially was I guess transitioned into being a woman, and then was eventually pardoned, or not pardoned. What's the phrase where you're not pardoned but your sentence is shortened by the president?
I have no idea.
Okay, so anyways, that happened.
Whatever that's called.
And by Barack Obama, and is now running for office.
Okay.
So it's a long backstory, but that's essentially the what's happening. And so,
can you run for office if you were like in federal, like if you have a felony?
I feel like you can do what you want if the president pardons you.
Yeah, but like they still like were
or
convicted.
commute your sentence.
You're still convicted.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway, I
well, clearly you can.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you. I mean, I'm not against it. Like, I don't think if you have a felony, you shouldn't be able to run for office. But I'm just.
Yep. So, I mean, I was generally a big fan of the leaks, but
yeah.
I mean, I imagine you were too, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. But anyways, so Chelsea Manning's running for office, and there's a new campaign video out. So what we'll do is Eric and I are going to listen to it, and then I'll put the audio in the video, because I imagine.
Okay.
And then we'll also put the link in the show notes. So you ready to watch this, Eric?
How long is it?
It's very short. It's a campaign video. It's got to be shown on TV.
I'm Chelsea Manning, and I approve this message.
We live in trying times. Times of fear. Of suppression. Of hate. We don't need more or better leaders. We need someone willing to fight. We need to stop asking them to give us our rights. They won't support us. They won't compromise. We need to stop expecting that our systems will somehow fix themselves. We need to actually take the reins of power from them. We need to challenge them at every level. We need to fix this. We don't need them anymore. We can do better.
You're damn right we got this.
Oh my god, that was so unbelievably awkward.
So all I have to say is, like, Jesus Christ, what an edgelord.
Yeah,
like
I'm so ready to like walk around with fingerless gloves and and a rose and stuff.
Oh my god, dressed all in black, fingerless gloves, arms crossed, holding a rose. It just, I don't know. It's like teleports behind you, kind of edgy.
Yeah,
it's like how do you,
we live in trying times. Your leaders aren't gonna help you. That's so basically yeah. I also liked how the entire like campaign message was about like that stuff and had absolutely nothing to do with like the state of Maryland, where like she wants to be the senator.
The first 30 seconds kind of comes across as being a little snuff filmy with like this like footage that keeps shaking and cutting out.
Yeah, like there's this one woman, she's like getting like pulled away by the police, and it's just like it like redoes her shaking and looks like she's kind of dancing, but like. Yeah, that was so awkward.
It's oh man, this is like objectively bad. So
yeah, and I'm like a fan of Chelsea Manning, like leaking all that stuff. It's not but now I'm just like, wow, what a crazy person.
Oh my god, I don't even think it's like.
See,
crazy.
This is the problem with the Democrats.
What they
like? She's running under the Democratic platform.
Is she?
Yeah, it said Democrats, the Democrat platform 2018.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just saw a rose, and I assumed she was like DSA associated.
Yeah, that's what it says. So,
wow.
Okay.
I mean, I guess even if you're in the DSA, if you want any chance of winning, you have to run as a Democrat.
Yeah. Anyway, that's awkward.
Oh my God.
But it's definitely worth so don't just listen to it like here in our show. Like go watch the video because it's really funny. It's I don't like YouTube videos like that very often because it's like, I just have better things to do.
You're missing so much by not seeing the fucking cringe lord arm crossed black edgy roads. Oh my God.
All right.
All right. So what do we have next, Eric?
So this is something I think we both probably disagree with. So I'll start with saying I'm pro-abortion, but in Canada,
like mandatory abortion.
No,
like 100% required.
Yeah, everybody gets aborted. Like no people anymore.
I'm surprised you're not a fan of that.
No, I don't want to force people to do stuff. I mean, just in general, I don't want to force people to do stuff. But so in Canada, the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has established a policy mandating that groups that apply for youth employment grants support abortion rights. And this isn't the only. So their actual so here's their actual policy, and apparently they got sued for this previously and lost. So now they're going to have like an actual stated policy because I guess before it was unclear. But their policy is that, and I'm quoting here, why organizations. Okay, so let me go back here. So there's a checkbox in in the application to like get one of these summer jobs program things, and the checkbox states so like this would be you as an organization filling it out and then checking this box and agreeing to it. And what the box says is my organization's core mandate respect individual human rights in Canada. These include reproductive rights and the rights to be free from discrimination on the basis of sex, religion, race, national or ethnic origin, color, mental or physical disability, or sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. So I agree with that largely. Like I don't think you should be able to discriminate, more or less. But as much pro-abortion as I am, I kind of disagree with like limiting people based on that, because I think you can be anti-abortion but not like the government. So the government could be like, yeah, you can get abortion, and then you can actually be like personally anti-abortion.
Sure. So
I have a problem with that specific issue because like let's say I'm like anti-abortion. I'm like, yes, I think people, I think if a mother if a woman gets pregnant, she should not abort the child because my interpretation of that is like life starts at conception, and therefore I don't want, human life. I believe that that's a human life and it shouldn't be destroyed. And I respect that position. I don't respect people forcing that position on other people, just like I don't respect any of my fellow vegetarians or vegans trying to force their perspective on people who eat meat, although I think you should try to change their mind, but not force it. So I actually have a problem with that. So
yeah, I guess I think about this from a strategic perspective, and I think it's really, really, really stupid on the part of the liberals, just from political optics. And here's why. And I guess to preface this, it's a trend I notice with like liberals versus conservatives in general. Uh-huh. So I think liberals tend to try to pass legislation as if they're never going to go out of power.
Yeah.
And they're never going to have to defend themselves. They're never going to have to defend themselves against their own cudgels, essentially. Yeah. Whereas conservatives, I think, do the opposite, and they always govern as if they're going to like completely get wiped, during the next election cycle.
Yeah.
And so I think this is sort of the. I guess this is a child of that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Because what I think is going to happen is as soon as Canada gets a conservative PM, like let's say this legislation gets, the challenge goes through and they're successful.
Sure.
As soon as they get a conservative PM and a conservative legislative body, the conservatives, because they don't have nearly as much to lose in keeping this program alive as the Lib Dems do.
Yeah. So
what's going to happen is the conservatives are going to abuse the sort of politicization of this bill 10 times worse than the liberals ever would have.
Yeah.
And so the end result is now, if you support any kind of liberal policies at all, you can't get a, you can't get like I guess, teenage help through this grant program.
Yeah.
And so that's going to make it's just going to make it politically unviable for this grant program to exist at all. And then guess what? The conservatives have won.
Yeah.
Like either way they win. Like if you can't just hand your political enemies a weapon to beat you to death with. Yeah, and that's what's happening here.
They do. And I think we might have talked about this before, and I think Dan Carlin actually does a really good explanation of this too. But I mean, ultimately, the thing is that people there's been a big issue with like the expansion of presidential powers. That's continued going on. Power has been expanded, with Bush, then further expanded with Obama, and then the Democrats are like very pro expanding executive powers under Obama, and then all of a sudden Trump gets in, and then they're like, oh well, like the president can't have all these powers, and it's just like it's A, hypocritical, it's B, stupid, and C, it's not like they're not gonna be able to like fix that, and then they're gonna continue to expand powers, and like, okay, now we have the power, and then they pretend like like their opponents aren't gonna get in and then get that exact same power. And yeah.
I mean, I just have sort of noticed over time that trend seems to continue. Like the worldwide, I feel like conservatives are very, very like they just go in with the mindset that they're going to lose everything tomorrow, and so they govern very defensively.
Yeah, hence conservative.
I mean, yeah, my girlfriend actually pointed out that out to me that I guess you would sort of expect conservatives to be very, very
conservative.
I mean, yeah, essentially, and then liberals to be liberal with their political strategizing, which can be turned against them, and that's sort of what happened with the what do you call them? I guess the Trump executive orders, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just following a pattern that Obama followed, that George Bush followed, that Clinton followed. I mean, it's been expanding since at least like FDR.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to, I guess, bring that up really quick because I don't have any issue with like, yeah, you can't discriminate, but the abortion thing, I think that's a little bit too far. So,
yeah, I just think it's bad political strategy outside of anything else.
Yeah,
don't give your enemies the tools to strike you with.
Right.
All right, Eric. So let's move on to the feature.
Okay. So as our listeners, I'm sure know by now, the Amazon released a short list of cities for the HQ2. So there were like 238 applicants for this like Amazon headquarters. You could have immediately eliminated like 200 of those because they were basically joke cities in terms of like
hey, you're being mean to Tucson.
Yeah, sending a stupid cactus. That was a terrible idea.
I can't believe they sent a saguaro cactus.
Yeah.
And killed it in the process.
Yeah, which is bad. They killed the plant. So that makes me sad. But so Amazon, what was it, Wednesday, I think?
Doesn't matter.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Sometime this week.
Yeah. So anyway, this past week, they released like the short list of cities. So I'm just going to run through the cities really quick. Just no order or whatever. Okay. So this, again, no order. Boston, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Philly, Montgomery County, Washington, D.C., Raleigh, Northern Virginia area, Atlanta, Miami, Denver, Nashville, Columbus, Toronto, Indianapolis, Chicago, L.A., Dallas, Austin. I think I named them all.
So real quick, I want to say, what is with this trend of like including everyone wants to establish in a ton of American cities or Toronto?
Well, Toronto's pretty great city. It's the thing is, it's like close enough to the U.S., but it's like a huge city.
But I feel like it's just kind of grouped in with America all the time. It's like it's not even Canadian.
Well, they even have, well, I guess other cities do too, but they have like the Toronto Raptors and stuff too. Okay, so so those are the cities, and then there's a funny article from City Lab, and it was like the 7 stages of Amazon headquarter 2 grief. So before we do a rundown of the candidate cities and what we think their prospects are, I do want to make fun of some cities really quick. So I'm gonna read a couple quotes here. Well, tweets, I guess, because
let's get into it.
Apparently, tweets are how people communicate these days. So a city council member in Charlotte. So the first stage was shock and denial, and a city council member in Charlotte, North Carolina, said, "While I'm happy for Raleigh." Raleigh, North Carolina, I simply can't understand how Charlotte doesn't make the short list for Amazon headquarter 2. If you had told me the short list was 5 cities and Charlotte wasn't on it, I could understand that. I could even nod my head if you said 20, but 10, but 20, no, and no Charlotte, come on, man. And then somebody in San Diego said, still winning at City of San Diego, something else. May not be in running for Amazon headquarter 2, but Amazon is already growing in San Diego. And then so here's stage 2. Was it, this is somebody for Baltimore, was it the crime, the unheated schools, or the lack of decent transit that sank Baltimore's bid? So I think they were just kind of like saying, hey, yeah, no crap, we're not going to get it because like we have all these problems. And then
it's amazing. They just got buried by their own citizen.
Yeah. And then the Democratic candidate for governor in Detroit said,
oh, Jesus Christ.
Amazon headquarter 2, choice to leave Detroit out shows that in Michigan we're not even succeeding at our one tough goal of attracting big corporations. Okay, so stage 3 is anger and bargaining. These ones are really cringeworthy. So Chris Brown, city controller of Houston, Texas, said, "Hey Amazon, I'm sure it's just an oversight, but I see that Houston isn't on your short list for HQ2. Here are some reasons why you or any business, organization, or family should make Houston home." And then
all of that was in one tweet?
Yeah.
How that?
I don't know.
That's a lot
Well, it's up to 240 now. You know that, right? I think, or 280. They like doubled it or something. But anyway, so then this other guy, Joe Gomaldi or something, president of the Houston Police Officers Union, said, "Oh, this one's so bad." Okay. Thanks, Amazon, for considering Houston, Texas. However, you made a huge mistake leaving us off the short list. Greatest people, greatest city in the world. Hashtag your loss. Hashtag not bitter.
Well,
hashtag Amazon HQ2.
How can they be? Also, so I just want to point out, no one who's not bitter says hashtag not bitter.
I know.
But
okay.
How can they be the greatest city if Columbus is the greatest city? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, see? That's a good point. Okay, stage 4, depression. Depression, reflection, and loneliness. So this is somebody from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank God for Prime, adds to cart. And then somebody from Calgary, Canada, said, "We're disappointed that Calgary was not included on the short list, but we're proud of our bold campaign and community for rallying around it. The global attention we receive will help attract other companies. But in the meantime, go Toronto, go." Very Canadian response, I'd say. And then somebody from Buffalo said, "Yo, at Amazon, Buffalo could have been Yo Primus Prime Bay." So they barely English, so no wonder they didn't pick Buffalo.
I was going to say, they deserve to lose the bid right there. Even if they were in the top 20, that should disqualify them.
Yeah. So then stage 5 is the upward turn, and this is somebody from Kansas City. I understand that some Kansas Cityans may be disappointed by the Amazon announcement, but it's important to remember that as a result of the very collaborative effort, more people know about the great things going on in Kansas City and beyond, whatever.
I would never want to live in Kansas City because apparently they're called Kansas Cityans.
Yeah, that's really weird. Okay, so stage 6 is reconstruction and working through. So this is somebody from the great city of Cincinnati. What are some things Cincinnati can do to better compete for Apple and other big job projects? 3 pragmatic suggestions. Go. Okay. Yeah, Cincinnati. Cincinnati. Okay. Number 7, acceptance and hope. Joint statement. This is Louisville, Kentucky. Joint statement from 2 people and somebody from Louisville Forward, the city's economic development agency, on HQ2 bid. Quote, Greater Louisville submitted a very competitive bid for Amazon HQ2. We will continue to swing for the fences every day. That's fair. And then somebody else from Baltimore said, "Come on, Baltimore, cheer up, ever forward. There's got to be another cathedral of indentured servitude we can lure to our fair city." So I thought that one was actually pretty funny. Okay.
I like how everyone in Baltimore is just like flat out negative.
Yeah.
It very much fits the city.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, let's run through let's run through the cities, and I think I'm gonna list them here. Okay. So I have a written list here, and what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate some cities, and then we're going to talk trash about some other cities, and then we're going to talk up some other cities, and then we're going to probably sit here and pray and hope that Columbus somehow gets selected. So,
yeah, but we probably won't make top 5.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead and eliminate a couple cities. LA.
Yes, gone.
Yeah. LA is gone. New York City.
Yes,
gone. DC itself, the city of DC, Washington, DC.
Probably because...
Well, the reason I'm saying eliminate that is because there's also that Montgomery County area in Northern Virginia. So there's 3. Yeah. So that's why I'm setting...
But between Nova and DC, definitely Nova.
Yeah. In Montgomery County, Maryland, I don't... let's see. I don't know where that is, but I think I had the map here really quick. So I'm just double checking. So yeah, it's actually up by. Oh wow, it's up by Philadelphia. That's interesting. It's farther north than it's north of DC. So.
All right, so it's not.
So the reason I'm saying get rid of DC because it's not going to go in DC. I mean, they'll pick one of those other two areas outside of DC, but not there. So okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't completely throw that out, but sure, whatever.
Yeah. So I say we eliminate Philly. I just don't see it. I don't see a reason for it there because you can just pick one of those other locations close by.
Yeah, I mean, how much do they care about crime rate?
I'm sure they care. And yeah, I just don't. Because
crime rate's one way to like immediately get rid of Philly.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I just don't see it. Newark, New Jersey, I don't see it. And I also don't see.
Yeah, Newark just kind of sucks to live in, I think.
Yeah. Another city I don't see is Indianapolis because it's a worse version of Columbus or Pittsburgh.
With a higher crime rate.
Yeah, and so here's another one. Now we don't have to eliminate one of these two, but I think we should. So you have Dallas and Austin. I think we should get rid of Dallas.
Between the two, absolutely. Yeah. There's no reason.
I just don't see Dallas versus any of these. I feel like I think one of the things they did was they picked a lot of either or cities so they have some potential locations. So like the DC area is like a pretty heavy I think it's pretty heavy favorite, but they pick like Dallas and Austin. They're close by, and it's like it could be either one of those, but they're not really giving you much information, right? Like they honestly like this whole
Austin's a top 5 choice, I'd say.
Yeah. But I'm just saying like, so in the grand scheme of like those 20 cities, like they're not going to include both of those in like a top 5. They're only going to include one of them because they're going to look at the location and then some of the clustered cities around there. So I see we get rid of Dallas too. So that leaves us with Atlanta, Boston, Pittsburgh, and I'd say we have Montgomery County or Nova and Northern Virginia. So I think those should just kind of be one.
Okay, sure.
Like we can just group those together as one because they're frankly close enough that it's like
just say DC area.
Yeah.
Something.
So we'll just say DC area. DC. Yeah. I'll just put that here. Okay, so we have the DC area, but not DC itself. Raleigh, North Carolina, the Research Triangle, Miami, Toronto, Columbus, Chicago, Nashville, and Austin. I think all those are pretty reasonable choices.
I don't buy Nashville.
Well, yeah, so I was actually the first one I was going to say we should eliminate, but Nashville and Miami. But
Florida?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Where else? What other Miami? Miami, Ohio?
There is no Miami, Ohio.
Whatever.
Everybody messes
Oxford,
that up. Yeah, it's Oxford.
Okay, so Atlanta, it's the gateway to the South. I think that's got it going for it. It's Georgia Tech's there. It's a pretty big, diverse city.
It makes sense. Top 10. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking like let's get down to like a top 5.
Okay, top 5.
Now I'm not saying we have to call it a top 5 right this second, but I'm just saying like some pros and cons. So those are some of the pros. The weather's not god awful. Well, actually, it kind of is because it's south and it's humid and stuff. But it's a good strategic location. It's the hub of Delta. It's the world's busiest airport, I think.
Why don't we each build our own top 5?
Let's
compare.
Well, yeah, we can do that. I'm just saying we should go through some pros and cons for the
Okay,
cities,
sure.
and then we can compare our top 5. So those are some pros. Cons are it's Atlanta, so it's also known as Sprawlanta, so the traffic is miserably bad. Oh, another pro is like land is cheap, so there's that too. I don't like Atlanta. Doesn't seem like a destination for me, but I don't know how important that is to other people.
One thing to keep in mind is how business friendly
it's pretty, and so that's another thing going for it. Pretty business friendly. Okay.
That was probably the number one reason that immediately eliminated like anything in New York and New Jersey.
Well, yeah. I mean, also in New York, there just isn't room.
Well, yeah.
It's
like Newark was a choice, and that's
yeah. Okay, so those are some pros and cons for Atlanta. So for Boston, some pros are very highly educated workforce because you have MIT and Harvard, and then you have all the other universities in the Northeast. Plus, it's close to New York, and Boston's a pretty cool city. Some cons though, very expensive in terms of land.
Sucks.
Driving's going to suck just about everywhere.
Not Boston level of suck.
Well, I don't know. Atlanta's probably worse. Or at least close to it.
I mean, Atlanta's just
let's just say, quite a few of these places driving is going to suck.
No, I mean, it's a different driving problem. Like, Boston is...
Okay, so just traffic. Let's just say that. But at least it has public transportation, I think. So it's expensive to live in. Housing costs are expensive. It's probably going to be expensive to develop. I can't really think of too many other
I mean,
Baths.
their big USP is obviously all the universities, right?
Yeah.
All the people who say I went to Boston.
Yeah. Okay. So Pittsburgh, one advantage is Carnegie Mellon and Pitt, both good schools. I would say location's pretty good. So so I guess Boston on the East Coast, it's a pretty decent location. So you got you're close to New York and DC and stuff, and it has a big international airport. Pittsburgh doesn't have a big international airport. Atlanta obviously does. We talked about that. Pittsburgh doesn't have a big international airport. It's cheap. It has Carnegie Mellon and Pitt, and the location's not too bad. What are some other?
I mean, it's kind of a cool city, honestly.
Yeah, it's cool. They got good sports teams and stuff.
They're
pretty business friendly.
They're pretty well located. I think that's true of Atlanta, of Columbus, of Philadelphia, all three. Or sorry, Pittsburgh, all three.
Yeah,
not Philadelphia.
Yeah, so it's got some good things going for it too. No big issues. So the DC area is pretty. A lot of people are saying that's a front runner because Jeff Bezos just built, either built or paid for like a $28 million home in the area. He owns Washington Post, which is located there. So some people have been speculating that because of the cluster of like Philly, the DC area, the two areas we mentioned, plus the actual city of DC itself being on the short list, that because of those things, they think that Amazon might be leaning towards the area. I'm not too convinced.
Wouldn't that be funny though if it ends up being a like Bezos wants to work close to home kind of thing?
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like I feel like that's a little bit too simplistic. That's kind of my big negative on it. I mean the area is okay, but it doesn't have it doesn't have like the highly educated workforce that I think people think it does. Like in the DC area, there are obviously like highly educated people, but what universities are nearby? I mean, you have like Penn and Pitt in Philadelphia, which is kind of close.
You have UVA.
Yeah, that's true too. You have that as well. So, I mean, there's a couple, but it's not like, it's not like Boston, for example, or I'd say even Pittsburgh has better, between Carnegie Mellon and Pitt. I don't know. It's just not like that great, I guess.
Keep in mind though that the area is also filled to the brim with transplants.
Yeah, and also the traffic is a nightmare in the entire area.
Yeah.
So, there are some negatives. And plus, I don't know how do you get to the airports, the big international airport. You're gonna have to drive an hour to get to the airport in DC from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah,
unless you're downtown. But even then, if the traffic's bad, you're screwed. So that could be a negative.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. In Raleigh, North Carolina, Research Triangle, probably cheap land. Besides that, though, I don't really see.
What's in Raleigh?
So they have Duke, North Carolina State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Duke and North Carolina are fantastic schools, and then NC State's pretty good.
Gotcha.
Miami, the biggest. It's the gateway to Latin America. So if you're looking for like the Latin America play, air quotes here.
What the hell does that mean?
People, I don't know. People think that because. So people call like Miami like the capital of like Latin America and stuff. So you're close to the Caribbean. They have all these flights going to like Brazil and other places in South America.
This is not a big deal for Amazon.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that's what people have said, and that could be a plus. Although we can say that we don't think it's a big enough plus to matter. Although the one good thing though is the weather. Other than the hurricanes, like you get Florida, so you have nice beaches and stuff. So it's a destination. So if you're looking for like more of a playground for people. That could factor in.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. We can just eliminate it if you want, because I don't see Miami at all.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I would be more comfortable eliminating it than DC proper even.
Yeah. Okay. Toronto. What are your thoughts?
It's not in the U.S., which is a huge negative against it.
Although that does have some positives, because you can kind of insulate yourself from the craziness.
Kind of, but if you wanted to do that, you could establish yourself a number of places, including Singapore. It's not like
Well, yeah, but then they want it's a North American headquarter.
It's the second headquarters. It's not the actual headquarters.
Yeah. So one of the things people have been saying, and then this is a whole big bag of worms. So we could get into it and argue about it for an hour. Well, we could agree about it for an hour because we both agree. But they were saying that like because of the immigration climate in the U.S., that like people are more. Amazon can hire more immigrants in Canada or whatever, which I don't see how that's a good thing for Canadian citizens now, but whatever.
That's not really.
It's a good location too, and it's close. It has a huge airport too.
I don't buy it. So here's the question. Ultimately, can Amazon not afford 160 grand per employee? Because when we're talking about immigration for hiring skilled labor, like that's the magic number. Some companies can hit it, some can't. But this isn't.
Well, in Toronto though, like they just let people in more or less.
But what I'm saying is, this isn't a problem for Amazon.
Yeah,
I don't think the H-1Bs isn't a huge problem for Amazon in particular. For a lot of tech companies, it is.
Yeah.
For Facebook, it is because they have like rows and rows of mindless drones. But Amazon employees make more on average. This isn't this is not a problem for Amazon.
Yeah, and the other thing people forget is that Amazon is not just a tech company; they're a logistics company as well, and I think they're the number one employer of like MBAs or something too. Like so they're not just looking for tech people too.
Right. My point is like there are two classes of tech companies.
Yeah.
Those that are, in this particular case, there are those who are affected by the H-1B changes and those that aren't.
Yeah.
And Amazon, I'm pretty sure, is in the same camp as Google, where they really aren't. Apple isn't. Google is. Facebook is, but Facebook has a lot of what I would consider like low skill developers that they're just trying to like grind out features with.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Toronto does have some positives going, and it's also a good location, I think. Okay, so Denver, I think actually it's a plus and negative. The plus is like you're close to the mountains, so like you have for your employees, which I think is weighted very low, but you have like the good, we're like next to the mountains, like you have all the outdoor stuff. But on the other hand, it's not very far east, so I think that's going to be a pretty negative weight, and it's also actually pretty expensive now.
It doesn't get you access to anything else is the biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't see this as being top 10.
Yeah. Goes into a negative I have for the city of Austin. So positives, they're going to have the crew soon. No. Austin, so a lot of people have been speculating because Austin has a high percentage of like tech workers and Whole Foods is there. And it's like the darling child right now or whatever, that's like a prime location. But I'm a little bit less sure of Austin. I still think it's probably top 5, but I'm a little bit less sure of it than I think other people are, because Amazon doesn't care that Whole Foods is located there, just like they don't care that Zappos is located in Nevada. Like it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's not an arguing point. And then the other thing is Austin is the rents are increased. So I actually have these numbers. So I wanted to bring this up when we got to Austin, but so get this. Rent prices in Austin are 43.5% higher than in Columbus, 40% higher than Indy, 35% higher than Raleigh, 26% higher than Pittsburgh. They're even higher than Toronto and Philly.
Yeah. So the important thing to notice here, though, is that Columbus's biggest selling point is it's the cheapest city of all.
That's one of them, yeah. Well, that and Ohio State, and then the location.
Well, I just mean in the top 20, we are like the cheapest, which is like a sticking point. I guess we also have the biggest university.
Yeah. So so like we can just roll into Columbus. So one of the benefits obviously is a gigantic amount of students, and because Amazon's looking not just to hire tech workers, they want to hire students from all variety of different
we have
backgrounds.
We have a million colleges.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. The location's great in terms of like geographic, because we're so close to all the major cities. So some people have been saying that, like we don't have direct flights to Seattle as a negative. To me, when I see that, what I think is the airport is ready for development, and Amazon could be the biggest influencer of that if they wanted to.
To be fair, though, one of our biggest drawbacks in this whole conversation is the airport. Like in general, the airport is
the airport's great. Other than like we don't have international flights, but
we don't have international flights. Our national flights are somewhat limited.
But what I'm saying is like the national flights that can change instantly. Like they could just start flying to Seattle. Like there's no reason they couldn't. Like there's no barrier there. And then I think with regard to the international flights, it's something that could be changed.
Maybe.
So, but then even so, you're only like an hour flight to Chicago or Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I
agree with you with international flights. I think the national flights is something that could be instantly resolved.
I'm just saying, compared to almost every other city in the top 20, we are worse in the airport or like in regards to our airport currently.
Yeah. So
although we do have probably one of the fastest airports in the country.
Oh, the airport's so great.
Yeah. You can just be dropped off and just like walk.
Literally 20 minutes before your flight, you can get, unless you get there in like at some rush hour, you can get to your flight.
When I went to LaGuardia, it's just so miserable, like every aspect of being there.
Yeah.
And I heard JFK's even worse.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Columbus. What are your thoughts on Chicago?
I really, really don't like it, but I could see it happening.
Yeah. I think there's a ton of area for development, and it's a big city without big city prices. I mean, it's expensive, but it's not like New York City or LA or something like that.
I feel like a lot of West Coast people see Chicago as being kind of a smaller city. Like they view Chicago as in the way they should view Columbus.
Yeah, but it's actually
Columbus
gigantic,
and they view Columbus as being like a small town.
Yeah,
it's like what?
Yeah,
what does that mean?
I think Chicago's got a pretty solid shot. I don't know if I'd put it in the top 5, but not for any like negative reasons. I guess it's a big city. I don't know. I don't have anything negative against it.
More than anything, we really just don't want to see it go to Chicago.
I mean, I'd rather my worst nightmare is like Indianapolis. Like, I would be like, I'd probably just hang myself.
That's not a realistic concern, man.
Right, I know. And then finally, so I think Chicago's fine. So the last one I have here, and hopefully I didn't miss any, was Nashville.
Not gonna happen by.
Yeah, it's the hipster mecca of the South, but ultimately, there's no reason.
Why would you want to be in the South? That's like, okay, the South versus the East Coast or the Midwest. Like, it's just so here are the places I see location being valuable. 1, Texas. Okay. 2, Midwest. 3, the East Coast.
Yeah, right. I agree. Okay, so funny enough, we actually narrowed this down to 10 different areas. So I'm going to read them off, and then we can both write down our top 5 or list our top, or just say what our top 5 is.
Sure.
And you can order them if you want. I probably won't. So we are left with this is what our expert opinion on the top 10 realistic cities are: Atlanta, Boston, Pittsburgh, the DC area, Raleigh, Toronto, Denver, Austin, Columbus, Chicago. And then you can pick your top 5. So,
right.
Do you want to write them, or?
Yeah, well, let's just we'll just go through them.
List yours first.
Yeah, sure. I'll go through mine first. All right,
okay.
Two of these are sort of outside choices, but I guess I have a kind of solid like top 3. All right, okay. So I'm thinking Boston, DC area, Austin, Toronto, Pittsburgh.
Cool. So my top 5 in no order are Atlanta, Boston, DC area, Austin, and Columbus. I just picked Columbus. Well, Columbus really, it could be a top 5 is all I'm saying. I don't know if it is, but I'm just all these are pretty much reasonable choices here.
Yeah,
but
I feel like Columbus and Pittsburgh are very similar. Toronto was kind of my like oddball one. What was your oddball one? You had like
I didn't really. I don't think any.
No, you had one in the South.
Well, Atlanta, but I don't really think that's an oddball. Like Nashville would be an oddball, but Atlanta's pretty solid.
But I mean, we both agree. Like,
well, neither of us want to live there.
Yeah,
and like, but I don't think Amazon could still say, well, this is the best deal. So,
but I would take a 50-50 bet that it's going to end up in the one of the 3 we agreed on, which is Boston, DC area, or Austin.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree on that.
You take a 50-50 bet there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So when I was driving over here, I was going to say, I think we should each pick one city and let's just bet 1 beer over it. So if we pick a city and it gets picked, then. But if not, then we just don't do anything.
I'll take smart money and go Austin.
Okay, I'll go with the DC area.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I don't know when they're going to announce this. Maybe we'll forget, but hopefully we won't. And then
please just like message us when this happens and see and like check in, see if
Also, I mean, send us an email if you have like some points you want to make. About
somebody's going to email us and just be like, all right, here's why you're wrong. Here's why it's definitely going to Nashville.
And do that, because then if you do, we'll talk about it, and then
we'll read it on the air if you want. I mean, please specify if you don't in the email, but I don't.
Yeah, we might even if you send us an email and say don't read that, we might read it anyway.
No, we won't.
Because
I'm a
nice
good person, unlike some people in this podcast. So, anyways, I think that's it for this discussion.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's close it out, Eric.
All right.
So this has been Columbus this week. Thanks everyone for joining us.